are willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little.
So detailed press briefing, of course, by the United States that we are getting live for our viewers from Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Details about the operation, how it happened, and now the future of Venezuela. United States President Donald Trump saying the U.S. will indefinitely run the country after capturing President Nicolás Maduro in a large-scale military operation today. Trump also claiming the U.S. would do so until a proper and judicious transition occurs. He's also now said U.S. oil companies will be taking over Venezuelan oil infrastructure and that the U.S. will improve Venezuelan oil infrastructure as well. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat, continues to be live with us. Major General Sudhakarji, geopolitical analyst, joining us live. Major General Shashi Asthana, defense expert. Andrew Latham, professor of international relations, also joins the broadcast. Andrew Latham, let me come to you first. Detailed press briefing taking place, of course. You're in the United States currently. How is this being perceived there?
Well, there are, generally speaking, two kinds of people that pay any attention to Donald Trump: those who really, really love him and those who really, really hate him. And most people in between have the good sense not to pay any attention to him at all, because he didn't say anything that made any sense. The United States is not running Venezuela at all, so it can't continue to run Venezuela. It's silly. And on and on and on with digressions here and digressions there. Most people of any sense in this country are inoculated to the bloviation. But this is different. Today is different, not in terms of him bloviating, but this was military action driven by a lot of considerations, clearly illegal under international law, questionable under American constitutional and domestic law, portrayed as law enforcement, as if this were just a couple of cops kicking in a door to arrest somebody. It's more complicated than that. Obviously, Maduro is not a legitimate leader of anything other than his family. But that's not the point. The point is about precedent. It's about American soft power. It's about a reorientation of American defense strategy to enforcing spheres of influence, which we haven't done in this country for a long, long time. The Western Hemisphere is ours. Certain parts of the world are China's or Russia's. It's an old way of thinking about international politics. But along with the Monroe Doctrine, the Dunroe Doctrine, it seems to be back. The jokes craft themselves.
We've got a sense though. We've got a sense though of the future of Venezuela, how things are going to run, what's going to happen next through this press briefing by Donald Trump, isn't it, Major General Shashi Asthana? There were questions over whether this administration would continue, whether there would be elections soon or not. But I think the U.S. president has just indicated what he plans on happening next in Venezuela. And it seems the U.S. intends to decide what happens next politically in Venezuela.
Certainly, in fact, if you look at it, and if I have to read what he has said in a slightly different form with a critical analysis, let me put it in no uncertain terms. Firstly, when he counted that we have killed Soleimani, Baghdadi, nuclear, I think he is looking for a Nobel Prize for war instead of Nobel Prize for peace, because that's what he has done. That's one part of it. Secondly, he is going to run Venezuela, and he is also going to get his lost oil. That's what he mentioned. Now, lost oil means he is going to he is going to colonize. In my opinion, he is going to colonize Venezuela. Number one, and number two, he is going to shall I say loot the Venezuelan oil, the natural resources of Venezuela. This is what it means in the international law or in terms of the international, shall I say, sovereignty and territorial integrity terms. Then when we look at all the excuses, I don't buy any of these excuses that narco terrorism was an issue or drugs were an issue, for the simple reason because by American statistics itself, most of the drugs are getting in from land route and via Mexico. The amount of drugs which are getting through sea route is much lesser, and certainly Venezuela is not the top one. There are others who are top one, whether it is Mexico or Colombia or others. So that's another issue which perhaps, but he decided to punish because might is right. So whatever he feels is right he is doing it. Then is as far as the resources for natural security. Now he is looking at some other minerals as well in Venezuela, which are rare earth. Some of the rare earth minerals are also there. Other natural resources are also there. So he's used the term that resources required for natural security, national security, that we will secure in Venezuela. So that means all the resources of Venezuela, and when he says I'm going to run the administration as,
Yes.
so that means basically he is going to put in place certain mechanisms as to how their companies can now get into Venezuela and exploit all the resources in that manner. So this is the way perhaps he has tried out. It will be questioned. It will
Yes.
be a subject of debate because as per all international laws, it is, I think, overextending the powers of a particular country over the power, sovereign powers and territorial integrity of another country. Um, the reasons may be any: his dwindling popularity, his diverting attention of the Americans from Epstein files, and a whole lot of other issues
But I think
which
I think the main reason perhaps has been made clear by Donald Trump himself, Major General Sudhakarji, it is oil. The US has every intention to go in and capture those oil reserves, get the American companies in to run the oil reserves properly. So the US, of course, while on the garb of it, wanting to run the oil companies properly in Venezuela, will be capturing those oil reserves and other rare earth reserves of Venezuela, won't they, Major General Sudhakarji? Is that the real reason why this has happened? What did you make of this press briefing by Donald Trump, his strategy, and what it disclosed about the way forward for the Latin American country?
Uday, good evening. Thank you. I have waited for 45 minutes. Thereafter, you have called me, given me a chance. I'm grateful to you. Now, do you have time?
Well, out of those 45 minutes, I think 40 minutes Donald Trump was speaking. So we possibly couldn't interrupt him, could we have? Otherwise, he may be wanting to capture someone on a lighter note within our studios. But yes, please go ahead. And then I'll get an Ambassador Kapoor as well. I'm coming to you after this, Ambassador Kapoor.
You please take anybody else. Do you have time to listen to my reply? Or if you don't have time, I would like to quit.
Well, do you want to give a reply or not? That's up to you. Otherwise, I'll get an Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor coming in. Ambassador Kapoor, what are we learning about the future of the Latin American country, Venezuela, through this press briefing of Donald Trump? A very detailed briefing. He, of course, then did get Pete Hegseth and the military chief to also give some more details about the military opposition. Of course, Donald Trump, in Donald Trump style, has said that this hasn't been seen since World War II. But what did we read between the lines into the real reasons why this happened, Ambassador Kapoor, and also what happens next in Venezuelan history politically, and what happens next to Maduro once he does reach America? We believe he's on the warship right now en route.
Thank you, Uday. I think in practical terms, it seems that it is taking the world back many decades or many centuries, not World War II, but even prehistoric times, because this is just an exercise of, might and brutal power. And it's a flagrant violation of international norms, international law. It's probably, as we heard from some of the other panelists, also violation of domestic laws. It's going to create ripples for many years. It's going to impact the discourse of, diplomacy and the conduct of diplomacy internationally very significantly. It's been quite a paradigm shift. To say that we are going to run this country, we are going to take away the resources. There were so many statements which were quite surprising and shocking. And also, one thing which was also made clear is about the interest of America to now focus on the Western Hemisphere. Does it mean that, China is free to do what it wants to do in Taiwan? Does it mean that they can cover their own spheres of influence, including whatever China wants to do or Russia wants to do, that America is not going to be interested in or bothered about? So these are very significant statements which he's made, which reflects his thinking, perhaps, and which reflects the future course that American diplomacy will take in the remaining part of his tenure. It is also probably, as I was telling before the speech started, by the president that the domestic elections are due in November 2026. The economy is not in the best of shape, as we all know. In the US, I live here and I see the costs and the inflation impacting everybody very significantly. When I go out to buy my groceries,
run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Can you explain the exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
That would run Venezuela.
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time. The people that are standing right behind me, we're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. You know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be...
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So, just what your message is about that?
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, you know. We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went there. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
You were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering, if Maduro pushed back or resisted, killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is, all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact whereabouts?
Well, eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards. Did that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
President, how long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. Can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and the drugs?
And Russia, Russia, when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Now, are you saying, Mr. President, are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that?
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you.
Professor Latham, let me quickly bring you in here. Now, the U.S. will be running Venezuela. That's clearly been made clear by Donald Trump again now while he's taking questions as well. We still don't know who will be running it and for how long either. There have been no timelines given by the U.S. president either. He said till as long as a just and a viable transition can take place. We still don't know whether there'll be boots on ground. Again, that's something that he's been opposed to in the past. So whether that will be now changing is something we'll have to wait and watch for. But what is this transition really going to look like? What sense can you make, Andrew Latham?
Well, there's the fantasy that Donald Trump has just shared with us, and then there's the reality. And the reality is informed by the United States' experience in Iraq and its experience in Afghanistan and its experience, I could go on. Right now, there are no American boots on the ground. And he is supposing, this is the fantasy part, that the regime, which is now being decapitated but is still in place, the second tier, the third tier, the fourth tier, are simply going to roll over and accept his dictates and accept that he will send a team of military and civilian experts to rebuild the country. There's nothing in the history of the world, let alone history of Venezuela, to suggest that that's going to happen. They're going to fight, and it's going to be like Afghanistan. It's going to be like Syria. It's going to be like Iraq. It's going to be ugly and bloody. It is not going to be, and here's one of the ironies here. January 3rd, 1989, the United States invaded Nicaragua to depose Manuel Noriega, to arrest him on similar charges. He was tried, spent 20 years in an American prison, then was sent to France and was tried and convicted and spent something like a decade there in prison. And then he was sent back to Panama and tried there and sent to prison until he died in 2017. So it's not unprecedented, but in that case, there were actually American boots on the ground. They kind of rebuilt Panama. They certainly secured it for American security interests. There's nothing like that going on in Venezuela right now. If the regime says, okay, now that we've lost our leader, we're going to simply join Team America, there's still plenty of people who will resist. And not just.
Yes, and obviously the economic implications are huge as well. But obviously Trump now coming in and saying that, Donald Trump coming in now and saying, Major Lastana, that the oil reserves, of course, will be run by the US. He's also said they're open to selling that oil to others. Obviously does show that there were economic reasons as well why this strike did take place.
Certainly the economic reasons and the reasons of dominating the oil and getting back the control of oil was certainly there. He mentioned it also once, even before the operation, and now I think he has made it amply clear. The intentions, the aim of the entire operation is coming out, I think, loud and clear, that it is for oil and all other things are a cover-up. That's one part of it. Secondly, I must say that I agree with Andrew. It's not going to be all that easy because, yes, he has got the ears of the opposition leader, the Nobel Prize winner, and she is thumping the chest of, or she's backing President Trump is a separate issue. And the media is playing out that loud and clear, but I'm sure there must be fair amount of disgruntlement there as well, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to become slave in this era, and it is indirectly a colonization. If you convert it and take your mind back to East India Company, it is the same model coming up now, that we will have our oil companies there and we will have our military there, and all of them will control the resources of Venezuela. And assuming that everybody else, since he has threatened that if anybody opens his mouth, then his fate will also be like Maduro. He has threatened that in no uncertain terms. So basically, it's a bully trying to force down the throat of a country that this is the system, I am going to root, and you please don't object to it.
Okay.
That's the way it is happening.
All right. Well, we're getting
it will have its pushback.
We're getting some breaking news, in fact, now coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs. The MEA has released an emergency helpline numbers. The MEA has stated, in view of recent developments in Venezuela, Indian nationals are strongly advised to avoid all non-essential travel to Venezuela. All Indians who are in Venezuela for any reason are advised to exercise extreme caution, restrict their movements and remain in contact with Embassy of India in Caracas through their email IDs, cons.caracas@mea.gov.in, or the emergency phone number +58 412 958 4288. That's also open for WhatsApp calls. So, Ambassador Kapoor, an advisory as expected being issued by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs.
Well, that is required on the ground because the Indians who are there will need to be safe, and if at all the situation worsens, of which there is a good possibility, then they'll have to be evacuated. So I think the next step may be to advise them to leave the country whenever they can at the earliest possible, before the evacuation step has to be implemented. But coming back to the situation, basically, Uday, what I see it as is that, the rule of law, the Western order, which had been successfully implemented in the entire world through various means is now finally crumbling. There's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of doubts about any steps that America takes or the Western world takes. Already it had happened earlier. The intensity of that is going to increase. Even amongst the Western world, we have seen immediately after this attack, for example, many countries in Europe are questioning the steps. So it's not going to be easy now for the entire world going ahead. Because to say that might is the only basis of international law is probably not the correct statement.
Yes.
So this is what is being stated directly in this case.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you there.
All right. Let's leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this broadcast, analyzing that first statement, that first detailed statement by the United States President and the Trump administration on this strike in Venezuela, and of course also step to capture the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. He's en route to the United States of America. He will be in New York, and then of course the law takes over is what Trump has indicated. We'll be analyzing this, of course, on NewsX continuously. For the time being, a quick break.